welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show, or welcome back to the SaaS Revolution Show. Krish Subramanian, CEO and co-founder of Chargebee. Welcome, Krish.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Well, it's good to have you back. It's been a couple of years since I think you were on the podcast initially, and we were just saying, obviously, that Chargebee have been partners of SaaStock for 5 years. So we've known each other and our businesses for some time, which has been great, and very grateful for the long-standing sort of partnership and support from you guys. Are you calling from Chennai today?
Yes, calling in from Chennai. Yes, that's right.
It looks very unless that's the picture with lots of post-it notes. It looks very sunny and beautiful out there.
Oh, it's always sunny in Chennai.
Okay. I'm still yet to come, but I hear the SaaS scene is booming at the moment. And talking of SaaS booming, there was a conference called SaaS Bloomie recently, right, in January.
That's right. The conference called SaaS Bloomie for founders by founders to just share notes, be vulnerable, and then share learnings mostly. Right? But yeah, mostly SaaS founders from all over India. Close to 400 plus founders came here. And then there were a total of 500 attendees, sponsored by the ecosystem partners like VCs to enable this. But it was really good. We did a one and a half day conference with mostly workshop style sessions.
Amazing. One day we'll have to do a SaaStock in India, but still thinking about it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Just a quick picture for those who don't know, haven't heard of you before as a person. Who is Krish? And then also Chargebee, and let the audience know who Chargebee are as well.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Krish Subramanian, co-founder and CEO of Chargebee. Chargebee is a subscription management and billing platform for SaaS and SaaS-like businesses. We process over $3 billion of invoicing of our customers on an annual basis, serving customers in 53 countries with close to 400 people working at Chargebee in 4 countries. And we are backed by 4 investors: Axel, Tiger Global, Insight Venture Partners, and SteadView. We have raised just over $39 million in capital, and serving over 2,000 plus paying customers from all these countries.
And you mentioned, so you're in 4 locations now. So you're obviously in Chennai, San Francisco, I believe, and you mentioned Salt Lake City. Was that a new one?
That's right, Salt Lake City, and then we also have an office in Amsterdam.
Very cool. And so the European HQ is Amsterdam. Why, just a little snapshot, why did you choose Amsterdam, not London, not Dublin, Paris, wherever? So Salt Lake City, why have you opened those particular offices and locations?
Just like any scrappy startup, we just look for some options to be able to hire talent, and then the network of people to help us hire. Insight Venture Partner, one of our investors, they happen to have a good presence in Amsterdam, and then they connected us with people. It came down to just 2-3 locations, right? Of course, the obvious candidates are definitely Dublin, London, and then Berlin and Amsterdam. We just chose that simply because EU and there was a young working crowd, and people were willing to actually move to that location, and others recommended it highly. So we picked the place. That's all.
And why also have you, because you remain a CEO in Chennai, did you ever think about at some point going to San Francisco and one of the co-founders and usually the CEO kind of going there and building out the office and leading the charge there in the US?
Right. The technical headquarters as a company is still US. But I spend, between me and one of my co-founders, we spend about 5 to 6 months in San Francisco, right? I personally spent about 4 months there. We have been considering moving, but then the larger team is here, the hub and spoke model with the smaller locations there. So we are still building out the team and the leadership across the world. So we just feel like somehow the presence is necessary to build out the leadership team, sufficient leadership team before one of us moves there. I think it's just a practical decision at this point of time as to why we stay in Chennai. Every time the investors ask, I keep saying this year I'll move.
Yeah. Makes sense. Let's see what happens. Obviously, we've got SaaStock North America in June this year. Maybe there'll be an announcement that Krish has moved to San Francisco by that point. We'll see. So we're talking about revenue operations today, and obviously, I never sort of perceived Chargebee, or previously hadn't perceived Chargebee as a revenue operations business, and actually, revenue operations seems to be a newish term to me anyway. Sort of 12 months in the last 12 months, I've heard about this. First time actually, I think was last summer, and I think from the company Go Nimbly. So the CEO Jason was. They're all about revenue operations. Jason Reichel, and we've had him on the podcast as well. But can you give us an introduction to revenue operations and speak about sort of this idea in the way and what it means to you? That would be good to know.
Absolutely, yes. So traditionally, I think revenue flow has been unidirectional, right? It's start off as unidirectional, all the way starting from marketing to sales to product, and then eventually success, right? But when it comes to subscription businesses, it's a flywheel today, right? Where marketing feeds sales, and then from actually even from marketing it goes to product. The customers actually try your product first before it actually goes to sales, and eventually it feeds your funnel through flywheel through the customer success, and then that's how your revenue flows, right? And in a model where it's a flywheel, where you are trying to make every component more and more efficient, every function somehow becomes a revenue function, right? Regardless of whether you're trying to retain a customer and expand a customer, or you're trying to acquire a new customer, every function is now becoming a critical revenue function. And it's not just a question of saying, okay, I'm collecting payments and then my marketing or a product is the only revenue function, right? Or the only function at the top that actually influences it. Every function has a huge role to play. I think we look at it in three ways right now. Over a period of time, our understanding has evolved where the data, workflow, and the tools and process necessary to enable this entire workflow cuts across all the functions of an organization. I think if you look at a company like Salesforce, I think Salesforce is a massive revenue operations team that they built out, and only companies that actually massively scaled like Salesforce and ServiceNow, they actually started building out these revenue functions because they started understanding the importance of these early on. It's not just an ops role, but it's a function of tooling and workflow and the data integrity of cutting across all of this. And that's where the idea came to us while talking to more and more of these customers. And that's what we mean by revenue operations.
So thanks for that. And so my limited understanding of revenue operations sort of before was very much, as you say, around sort of bringing together sales, marketing, customer success, and so that it's not siloed anymore. But obviously, what you're saying here is like every function within the business can be a revenue function, revenue operations, and you're tying this into kind of almost like a full circle by bringing in I guess the back end, the billing and so on, right, for these subscription businesses.
That's right. So even a very small business, like let's say a 10-member team, they tend to use between 10 to 20 SaaS products, right? A small company tends to use a very minimum marketing automation tool, at least mail automation, right? And then a product like Intercom or a Crisp for customer communication that is integrated closely with product. And then, of course, you have a CRM, and then you also have your billing system, and then the payment system, and eventually your accounting. Right? You put these pieces together, and suddenly you're dealing with some 10 different tools, right? And then very quickly it continues to grow as every one of the function matures. And this is one of the reasons why investing in the kind of infrastructure that actually ties the data together becomes very important. Otherwise, you would actually operate in data silos without being able to connect the systems together. Right, and this is why ops becomes the ops tools ops becomes very important, and then your data ops also becomes very important. Right? All these together come together as revenue operations.
And so does this mean now, obviously, as we've previously perceived or known, lovingly known Chargebee to be a subscription billing platform, that from the markets, the subscription billing will be removed from the website and from the verbiage of the sales team, and we'll be, seeing you and talking about you as revenue operations instead moving forward?
No, actually, the way I'd like to describe this, right? I think it's a decision But it's not like the category has changed, right? Or it's not the way our customers are not beginning to describe the problem very differently yet, right? They still call this a subscription management and billing, right? And if we go back in time, right, when we started off, customers used to call this, rather we understood this problem as a recurring payments problem, right? And over a period of time, when we started growing with these customers, our customers were growing at an average of 160% year on year, right? Which means that that's massive growth, where the pain also accelerates, and along with the learning curve, right? And this is the same, meaning even the customer's pain actually continues to grow, meaning just like individuals, businesses scale faster than individuals, right? Same way, businesses tend to scale faster than individual functions, right? And individual functions tend to grow at their own pace depending on the leadership, team structure, and all of that. But I think in modern subscription businesses, right, one of the things we are definitely seeing is the challenge of how we thought of as, okay, a payment processing problem became somewhat like a billing automation problem. And then now we are seeing, and then we used to call this a subscription management and billing automation. That's the reason why you need this tool. Two, now the reason why somebody actually needs is the maturity of the customer is evolving to a point where they are saying, not just looking at it as, okay, I'm not looking at just something automation, but I want to also streamline operation. So yes, so it's scary when you actually say, are we going to see all of this to be changed? No, I think we will still be enabling revenue operations through subscription management and billing is how we see this, right? Rather than this becoming a change in terminology yet. And I think there is just increased appreciation for investing in a role of operations in every company is what we are acknowledging in our customers' world is what we are acknowledging when we talk about revenue operations.
So will there be, so we're not seeing then, in my understanding, then Chargebee being sort of recategorized or going after the category of revenue operations, but rather kind of understanding how revenue operations, can play an importance to your customers, and how the role that Chargebee can play within that revenue operations kind of function as well. But so within your team, within your business, with this, you've identified this sort of problem. Now you have to educate like the company around revenue operations, and is it changing? Is it more like then your sort of go to market for existing customers? Are you now talking more in the language of revenue operations and talking about this problem and enabling your salespeople to talk about revenue operations as well as not just subscription billing? So what has changed internally in the company and anything around your kind of sales process or content, etc.?
Beautiful question, right? It'll be very, how do I put it, arrogant of me if I actually say that we are going after revenue operations, or so the world has changed simply because we are actually going to start defining as this, right? I think it's just a simple acknowledgement of the fact that there are more customers who are looking at us who are actually from the operations team who are actually saying, hey, I'm looking to change our billing system, right? The biggest realization is, why is the CTO not looking at us, or why is the CFO, right? There are different people who actually look at you at different stages of growth, but increasingly we are finding operations people playing a very heavy role when changing systems, and they are taking a very pivotal role in the choice of system and the problem it solves, right? So basically we are educating internally and externally the desire that we would like to be solving this problem and then want to be seen as the company that is actually really enabling the operations people, right, inside and outside. Number two is an increased focus in our product, to play nice with every product that is out there, which actually enables this revenue operations. And in some way, if you think about an Intercom or a HubSpot CRM or a Pipedrive CRM and all the way through the accounting systems, everybody has a role to play. And we are an important cog in the wheel, in the infrastructure to enable this. But trying to saying, okay, so we are the ones who enable revenue operations would actually be not genuine, right, in some sense. I think the other part is, for whoever is actually spending their precious time listening to this, I would actually, if there is one takeaway, I would actually say, if you are not investing in operations, right, by not hiring people who actually spend a lot of time thinking about connecting data, connecting systems, it is almost like the basic infrastructure that is necessary as a stepping stone for better operations. So if there is one takeaway, I would actually say start paying a little bit more attention to why are we all talking about operations more than ever. Like it's like when we were probably at a $5 million level, we started thinking about customer success, and then pretty much the realization everywhere was, and every customer of ours also said, oh, if you're actually thinking about customer success, you're already probably 6 months late in thinking about customer success, right? And now it has become so common that everybody, just like setting up a customer support, you're already thinking about a proactive customer support. That's basically customer success, right? But we are thinking of that as a function. I think at some point of time, just because of the nature of the way we are all building SaaS companies layered over each other's tools, right? I think operations becomes very integral to the way you operate. Like your systems need to be connected, your data integrity becomes very important, your workflows need to be streamlined. And for that, you need dedicated headspace and time to think about connecting systems together so you are able to make better decisions and operate better. All the other functions to be enabled to be operate better, to operate better, right? I think that's what we are actually acknowledging by saying revenue operations becomes very critical for subscription businesses, more so for SaaS businesses.
How did you, or how did Chargebee like discover, identify this problem and this opportunity around revenue operations, and the operations sort of function being one that you can also, I guess, kind of like speak to regarding, selling them, or the Chargebee problem? Is it something where it's just continuous feedback from the teams and from customers? Is it, sitting in the office, like, reading content, analyzing, like how do you identify the problem? Is it one person? Is it a combination of things?
Beautiful. I think we wrote about this in a blog, detailed blog, as to how we actually stumbled upon this or understood this. I think it's continuous customer development, as we call it, right? I think it's a very known industry terminology. But I think just by talking to customers and the terminology that they are using to acknowledge the problem, and then who's actually, which persona of the user is really taking the lead in implementing the product, right? I think there are two parts to every product, right? One is who's really discovering your solution, and then who's implementing your solution, and eventually who's your power user, right? Any infrastructure product, most of the time, right, the person who's interested with actually discovering the problem is someone who gives you deep insights about the why behind, at what inflection point do people start looking for your product, right? And then your power users actually tell you something about how it's really valuable to them on a day-to-day basis, right? But the ones who implement it are the ones who can actually tell you all the frustrating pieces of how am I actually consuming your product, right? What makes sense? I think for us, the discovery or understanding of this happened by talking to these personas at different stages continuously, right? One is you pay more attention to your pre-sales conversations, right? You understand more about the why behind the choices made. But just by going up, when our customers are evolving at a rapid pace, where they are looking as a different team. For example, Freshworks started with Chargebee when they were at just about $1 million in revenue, right? And they've gone through, and they probably announced publicly sometime recently that they crossed $100 million or even more, right? And they've been growing and added 9 different products. They have been a different company in terms of process people over the years. Every 18 months, they completely reinvent themselves, and they look very different. So it's important that it's not like we have a product. If you have a product market fit, it's not like your product market fit for that customer remains forever. It keeps falling apart as they continue to evolve, right? Not just for new segments, but also existing customers. So the continuous customer development process is something very helpful, where we deliberately, consciously say, what is it I don't know about our customers, and how do I make sure that they don't churn out? They are going to look very different, right? If a new CFO comes on board, am I going to lose the customer? So it's important to understand the expectations of the new executive who really needs to champion the product. And through that process is how we actually continued understanding that the role of our product is now rapidly changing in our customers' world when they are actually going through rapid evolution year on year, right? So as a company that has an aspiration to power high growth businesses in their journey from 1 to 100 million, it was very important for us to actually say, now every time we have to ask ourselves, am I still relevant to this customer? And that process is what led to this. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. And you mentioned obviously a good point. Obviously, you once you found product market fit, which often is early on in the journey, but as you're getting to the first sort of million, which you guys long crossed, then you have to, well, let's say whether it's reinventing yourself, but you have multiple product market fits in the journey of your life. Now, as the CEO of the business, often and I sort of read a lot about the CEO also not necessarily having multiple product market fits, but reinventing themselves, sort of like year over year. So how has your journey been sort of like changing from obviously, co-founding Chargebee with the idea, getting, from that product market fit time to now, 370 plus people, 4 offices. Have you had to reinvent yourself many times, or what's it like? What is the Krish Subramanian like now compared to the one that started the business?
I hope more humble. I hope. No, I think it has been so by virtue of being a founder plus the CEO, right, or whatever is the title, we get the guilt by association because of the title, right, without being qualified for a job, right, at various points in our career, right. It's a privilege, but at the same time, when every time the company goes through different stages of growth, I think one thing the best way to reinvent ourselves, at least from my realization, is every time the organization needs a specialist in that role, how do we replace ourselves by hiring someone better than us in that role, allow them to build it, I think has been the biggest learning process, right? The moment you actually realize that I'm hitting the limits of my own understanding of marketing, that's the right time to actually bring in a marketing leader and hand over the reins and then allow them to actually run with it better than how we have ever done, right? And we are the first salesperson, we are the first marketer, right? And so on and so forth. But I think the biggest realization is this. And then the second part is, I think what we bring to the table, in my understanding, is better context. Right? We don't get a seat at the table not because we know every function better, but what we bring to the table is better context about where we are and where we are probably heading, right? And more understanding of the problem and the customer is what we bring to the table as a leader, amongst all the other leaders who operate the company, right? Take it to the next level. I think both these things have played a huge role in terms of continuous learning, to bring in specialists who bring something better than us to the table, while actually being quietly confident about what we have to offer to them to enable them to be really good at what we do. I think that has been, the biggest learning part, and I think that gives some level of acceptance without being an imposter, to be able to continue to play an active role in the org building process.
What do you like in terms of your typical week then? Like now, like how does that look? What are you spending your time on for Chargebee?
Good question. A lot on mostly understanding. So there is a part with respect to understanding all the data and making sense of, okay, how are we? That is trying to make sense of the operations of a company through numbers is one part, right? And then the other part is deliberately disconnecting from the data to understand the ground level reality by doing skip levels and talking to people. Right? That's something I try to consciously do, because we all thrive in information flow, right? So we deliberately try not to have, at least at Chargebee, we try not to have a cabin unless it's for a meeting, right? So the only way we are going to be smarter in decision making is when there is free flowing information across the floor. So I deliberately try to make sure that during the day there are a lot of serendipitous interactions that are happening. Right, is something that I try and attempt to do through skip levels. From a regular operations perspective, I think mostly reviews, like ops reviews, is something that we calendarize and make sure that we are having a regular cadence to do that across various functions, because it gives that role play and structure to retrospect and then operate better. Right, so that's one area where we spend more time. I still spend about 25-30% of the time in hiring. It's just that we hire more carefully, right? And then it becomes more important that we hire more carefully now. So still 25-30% of the time goes into working for better talent, as well as being part of the hiring process. Then, of course, we are a venture invested company, so it's very important to ensure that the stakeholder management, communication, all of that is manageable. And with the team growing so fast, there is not enough communication, right? Whatever we are trying to do with respect to translating our ideas to enable people to make better decisions, allowing them to do it, I think trying to spend more time learning to be a better communicator in writing, right, and spending more time in over communicating is something that I'm trying to get better at and doing more of.
Awesome. And how do you look after yourself? How do you stay healthy and sane as you run this this scale up?
Did I say I was sane?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was assuming I should know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think I was speaking with Dheeraj Pandey, CEO of Newton X, and then he was actually sharing something, which is, he said in B2B we get very good at apology, meaning one is there is war at work, right, and learning to actually have peace at home is extremely important, right, and so I think very grateful for that part in terms of being able to balance that. Second is, I think repeatedly being able to look at the customer problems and then connecting to the purpose of why we exist becomes very important, because there is always a number of issues that actually crop up, right? One day everything looks amazing, and then the next day you might also think that when you hear a bunch of issues, you feel like, how the hell are we going to actually scale this, then product, right? Number of issues, and then a lot of things might actually come up. So trying to actually stay grounded with respect to the reality that nothing is as good as it looks and nothing is as bad as it looks. The strike approach generally is something very helpful, right? Apart from, of course, the regular things like, okay, having an active lifestyle and all of that, right, which is the regular stuff. I think just the balance in perspective has been, I think, just been very helpful. And of course, humor, plus another co-founder who already keeps you grounded, saying you are not that good, right? And then keeps you grounded, right? I think is very helpful.
Awesome. Krish, well, we've come to the end of the show. It's been great chatting to you about revenue operations. Been just great having you back on the SaaS Revolution show for the second time. Hopefully we'll see you in San Francisco in June at SaaStock North America. I know Chargebee are back, and so hopefully we'll see you there. Yeah, so thanks so much, Krish Subramanian, CEO and co-founder of Chargebee.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. It was fun talking to you again. Thank you. We look forward to meeting you soon. Thanks.